Northwest Cavalryman Show, the podcast where your host, Rick Skolrud, discusses politics and news from Canada, the United States, and around the world from a conservative perspective. Warning: professionally offended people and liberal crybabies may be triggered. Viewer discretion is advised. While we put the finishing touches on this podcast, you are invited to visit the show notes. There are links to all of Rick's social media, including his website where you can sign up to take the Canadian Firearms Safety Course, which is a prerequisite for obtaining your Canadian Firearms License, also known as a PAL. Rick teaches these courses in Maple Bay just east of Duncan on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Now here's your host, Rick Skolrud.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing tonight? Hope everybody's doing fine. You know what? It finally looks like it started without a hitch tonight. But that's, I guess, still yet to be seen. So if anybody can do a sound check for me, that would be great. Let me know how everything is coming through. If there's any echoes or repeats, that would be great because I really can't hear that. So, hello, Nelson, David, Harley. How's everybody doing tonight? So anyways, I'm going to get started pretty quick here. I do want to ask a question though. Does anybody out there, thank you very much, Brad. Does anybody out there have a Vox amp head, 30, I have this Vox amp head, and I bought this a couple of years ago, and I've had to change the tubes twice already because I've blown the tubes. And I know that there is a problem if you actually use a standby, but I'm also wondering if anybody has any idea of what might be causing that, if there might be an issue with the amp, if anybody else has had problems with blowing the tubes, because it gets kind of expensive. Also, if anybody knows how to test tubes, the vacuum tubes, without actually, without actually having to push them in, that would be great. If you could put that down in the comments so that I don't lose them, that would be great if anybody out there knows that. So, hello, Brad, and thank you very much. JN, hello. Paul, nice to see you, Paul. And Tracy, how's it going? So, I got a lot of stuff set up for tonight. First off, I wanted to talk about stuff that I've already really talked about on a couple of my videos, but I think it's really, really important to discuss, and really it's got to do with corruption in Canada and foreign influence and all that. Hello, Lisa. I know some people from Salmon Armor used to be, and really there's a danger that's coming our way, and I think it's really, really important to talk about. And it really kind of relates to this interference that we seem to be getting in the Canadian government, and especially, the Trudeau government, and how dangerous it is, not just for Canada, but for North America as a whole. So this first little clip I want to put on, or I want to run for y'all, is actually a Fox Business News clip. And then we'll talk about how I think it relates to China or to Canada.
Welcome back. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sending a clear message to Europe at the NATO conference in Belgium, saying that the China threat is keeping the U.S. from guaranteeing the continent's security. Watch.
We must and we are focusing on security of our own borders. We also face a peer competitor in the communist Chinese with the capability and intent to threaten our homeland and core national interests in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. is prioritizing deterring war with China in the Pacific, recognizing the reality of scarcity and making the resourcing trade-offs to ensure deterrence does not fail.
Joining me now is Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow and the author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, Gordon Chang, back with me. Gordon, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Well, look, Pete Hegseth really laid it out in terms of the threat that is the Communist Party of China on America, and that has to dictate our positioning everywhere else. Your reaction?
Well, the important thing is not what we think we're doing, it's what China thinks we are doing. And I'm concerned that what Xi Jinping heard was a failure of American will to counter a clear case of aggression in Europe. And probably Xi Jinping is thinking, well, if the Americans won't stand up to Putin, they're certainly not going to stand up to me. We know this because of Chinese propaganda after the failure of Afghanistan, where they clearly linked it to an American failure to defend Taiwan. So we have to, I'm not saying what the Chinese are right, I'm saying that's what they're thinking, which means that Xi Jinping probably will be emboldened to be even more aggressive in East Asia.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me that the Congress overall is not on the same page on this. I mean, for so many years, the Democrats were screaming Russia, 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 trying to implicate President Trump in that ridiculous Russia collusion story. All of those years, they missed the aggression of Communist China. All of those years allowing Communist China to roll over the United States. We are now more than 2 years after the Chinese spy balloon surveilled the United States. And now we've got even a better idea of what that spy balloon was carrying inside and sending it back to Communist China in real time. A new report finds that it was loaded with U.S.-made technology from at least 5 different American companies, including communication modules, other sophisticated surveillance equipment. The balloon, of course, was shot down over the North Carolina coast after traversing the country for a week. Joe Biden finally decides to shoot it down when it gets to the Carolinas. As the House Foreign Affairs Committee finds, Beijing invested more than $10 billion into the Caribbean since 2005, including a massive port just 87 miles away from Florida. Gordon, we've talked about this is the Chinese MO. You know, acquire land near military bases, lend these countries money that they can't pay back, like in the Caribbean. And then once they can't pay it back, China takes over the area, including ports, which are incredibly important.
And if anybody doubts that's true, just look at the case of Sri Lanka, where the Chinese basically took over the agriculture industry. And while Sri Lankans were essentially starving, they were sending all sorts of food back to China because, of course, they have a huge population that they need to feed. But the Sri Lankans lost out. Now, I think that situation has been remedied. I think that they have, kicked the Chinese out, or at least curtailed their operations. But they're doing the same thing in Canada, and they're doing the same thing in the United States. China is a real threat to our security, our food security, and our national security. Because if you control the food, you control the people.
You say that this has given China undue influence in the United States. We're seeing a rise at Chinese nationals at the border as well. So the threat is real, and we understand it. But for years, the Biden administration played it down. The Democrats have been playing it down. Remember when that spy balloon was traversing across the country, and they said, oh, no, it didn't send anything back. That was a lie. We know that it did send it back, but they misled the American people, again, even about that. Why?
That is a great question, and I don't know the mentality of the Biden administration, but certainly General Mark Milley, just before he left his post as chairman of the Joint Chiefs, actually gave a public interview and said that he did not think that China sent anything back from that spy balloon, where we know that it in fact did, because subsequent reporting said that was clearly the case. And of course, this balloon had communication modules. This was, I think, a failure of the Biden administration to understand the threat posed by China, because I think Biden felt that he could accommodate the Chinese ultimately. And I think that was wrong, because the Communist Party has made it very clear. It has declared a people's war on us. They define that as total war. We have Chinese migrants in our country who are surveilling our military bases. It runs through the list. The signs of attack are obvious, and the Biden administration clearly failed to understand what was going on. Trump's taking a different view, and that's very good.
Yeah, I mean, even as President Trump is securing the border and deporting criminals, you still have a flow of Chinese nationals coming into this country, don't you? Why? Well, I mean, you can't just leave China. You need approval for that.
Yeah, if we go back 2 years, the Chinese migrants coming across our border, southern border, were family groups. In other words, people who were desperate to live in a free society. Now, U.S. Border Patrol reports that at least 2/3 of the Chinese migrants across the southern border are single males, military age, traveling without family members. They're coming in packs of 4 to 15. And in those packs, some of them just have all identical kit, which indicates planning for an attack. And this coincides with this uptick in tempo of Chinese incursions into our military facilities, both on the ground and in the air. This is looking at our vulnerabilities, seeing our patterns, planning for an assault on our bases.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so we are under attack, and there is a people's war going on against the West. So just to answer a question just real quick here that Michelle put up. So she asked, if I was for the 51st state, do you want to be the 51st state? No, I do not want to be the 51st state. I do not think that Canada would, I don't think that anybody would vote to be the 51st state, because then we would just be Greater Ontario. No, and I'm not even sure that I think we should be individual states if we merged, but there's other things that we can do without merging completely, although I think that merging completely would be a good idea. But there's other things that we can do, like an economic union, or even if it's just the West and the East Coast merged. I'm not sure that, I don't think Quebec would want to merge. I think they would want to go on their own. And I don't think Ontario would ever vote to merge. But so it could be that I would like to see Canada stick together as a unit, but I just don't think that will eventually happen. So yeah, that's my that's my opinion. But no, I don't think that we should be the 51st state. I would never want to be part of Greater Ontario. We have enough problems with being controlled by the greater populations of the of Central Canada right now. But that's just kind of my opinion. But getting back to the topic at hand, the China attack, the infiltration of Canada and the U.S. I think, and I think there's a lot of problems there. Like, China is infiltrating us. They have a lot of people coming into the country, and they are they're purchasing a lot of farmland. Like, this is a CPP actually purchasing a lot of farmland. They're purchasing a lot of critical businesses as well, and they're funding the Liberal Party. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at this clip from the Daniela Cambone podcast.
And everyone who's been before them, they're all in on it. They all know the joke. The country is controlled essentially by 20 families and the CCP. So they're told what to think. They're told that we're a sovereign nation, that we know what we're doing, that we're being bullied by our big brother down south, the U.S., where they have a problem in Mexico, not Canada. It's like, wake up, people. Wake up.
Exactly. Yeah, Sam, I think that's and I hope we are finally waking up. That's why I say it almost took this to wake us up, because we can't hide behind our Roots hoodies anymore and hide behind this mirage of, oh, we're the greatest. You know, everyone wanted to live in Canada at one point. We're the greatest country in the world. It was the passport you wanted to own. Those days are long gone.
In terms of what Mark is saying in his unique and concise, incisive style, look, you can take that to the bank. There's a leaked intelligence report called Sidewinder that says Canada is not uniquely targeted in corruption, but the level of Chinese influence in 3 to 4 urban centers in real estate is off the charts, and Canada is more open to control because the wealth of the nation is controlled in relatively few hands. So match that up to what Mark just said with serfs. And look, in nicer language, that's what's said. This is why I say, look, Panama Canal, Rubio goes down there, and very quickly, the Panamanian president says, we will not renew our Belt and Road deal with China, and we're looking at putting out these Hong Kong tycoons running the very same shipping entities that the U.S. military and Trump are concerned with. They are, this Sidewinder report said, set up in Canada. And to Mark's other points about, the RCMP not being able to deal with this, Daniela, I'm hearing from current and former high-level police officers that say, despite what the Globe and Mail or Daniel Dale at CNN are reporting about, 40 kilograms is it. No, Canadians have no idea the level of criminal money laundering running through our cities that's connected to this. So that's the issue. I just want to add, before we look, where do we go from here? What Mark is saying about a hurricane, that hurricane is going to hit us with 25% or more if we don't put a real fentanyl czar in place. That is someone with credibility, that the U.S. government, look, they're not going to be fooled if you put a Justin Trudeau office lackey in that position. They need someone that can assure the American government that the RCMP will work with the DEA if they want to put a wiretap on a triad boss or a cartel boss in Vancouver and Toronto, because it didn't happen before. The last point is, look, this U.S.-Canada strike force on organized crime, I believe the American government is going to want to see legal memorandums of understanding signed with Ottawa saying this isn't just pretty language to put off a tariff. This is some sort of joint laws between Canada and the United States where we will have, you working with the fentanyl czar. If the FBI and DEA want to come up to Vancouver and bust one of these triad command control money laundering nodes, which, by the way, I'm afraid, I'll say it, some of these bosses are connected to funding of the Trudeau Liberals. I'll just drop that because it's true. And I believe the Trump administration knows it. So the Americans, we're now, in the Germany-Greece European Union relationship. Canada and United States are there. They're not trusting our word anymore. They need to see. Are you
surprised? Okay, one.
Yeah, so the United States isn't trusting us anymore. The CPP is funding the Liberal government. This is Sam Cooper. I actually just ordered his book. I haven't read it yet. It's got it on my Kobo. I'm gonna sit down with that probably over the weekend. But I've heard him talk before. I know that he's got a lot of people who support what he does and think very highly of him, including this Daniela Cambone. So I think that it's, he does come from a pretty good place and has a lot of good, he's got a good pedigree as far as being an investigative reporter. So I believe what he says. And we're going to get to who the fentanyl czar is. I think everybody here probably already has heard, but I got some comments on that. But before we move on from the China attack, I did a video and I wanted to try and find that. I couldn't find my old video stuff, but it was a video on EMPs. And EMPs basically are they're, in addition to being like solar flares or solar storms, they're also they can also be generated by hostile governments. And one of the things that and I was watching this video, this Tucker Carlson video he was interviewing this lady. I can't remember her name. I was looking for this video today to try to put it up here, but I couldn't find it. But she is an ex-CIA case officer. And she actually talked about how North Korea actually did an attack on a Californian power station I think it was back in 2014, but I could be wrong about that. So the problem that we have here is this isn't theoretical. This attack that China that is imminent, I think, from China isn't just theoretical. It isn't just conspiracy theories. They're testing us. That balloon that came over, as you saw in that first video, that came over Canada and the U.S. in 2023, that was a spy balloon. I know everybody was trying to say, no, it's just a weather balloon that got loose. No, it wasn't. It was a spy balloon. It was, and it was sending back information to China. And they absolutely cannot be trusted. And unfortunately, the U.S. doesn't trust Canada anymore. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. But right now, I want to talk about the fentanyl czar, because I've got a few opinions. like that's a surprise.
News from Ottawa. The federal government has announced the appointment of Canada's new fentanyl czar. The creation of the position was among the border controls promised to Donald Trump just before he delayed broad tariffs against this country. The CBC's Karina Roman joins us live from Ottawa with the details. The frenetic pace continues. Here we are, a fentanyl czar. Who got the job, Karina?
Kevin Brosseau is our new fentanyl czar. Now, probably not a household name, but 20 years of experience with the RCMP, including as Deputy Commissioner, most recently as Deputy National Security and Intelligence Advisor to the Prime Minister. So obviously that's the kind of person they were looking for in terms of ex-uniform and someone who is well-versed in national security and the most sensitive national security issues. They are looking obviously for this position to be a coordinating position with U.S. Counterparts and law enforcement agencies to work on this issue and to counter it in a way that appeases our own needs as a country, not to have this as such a problem, but also, of course, the U.S. Now, they do say that in this press release about Mr. Brosseau, that he demonstrates his expertise tackling drug trafficking, organized crime networks, and other national security threats, bringing tremendous value to this position. And there is a picture of the gentleman. They use this opportunity to also talk about all the things that Canada is doing that he will now partly oversee, in addition to obviously our public safety minister and health minister, because it also is a health issue, talking about expanded direction capacity to shorten cargo container processing time, so checking those cargo containers, a new Canadian Drug Analysis Center, because of course they want to figure out where the ingredients are coming from, new canine teams, and in fact a precursor chemical risk management unit. I mean, a lot of this is lots of titles and probably things that will end up being acronyms that we will have to say over and over again, but showing that there is a multi-pronged approach to this. Now, this Kevin Brosseau will be the overall czar of this, and he is effective immediately in this job. So this is not some later date, because obviously they wanted to move this on this very quickly with the March 4th deadline approaching from Donald Trump in terms of the reprieve he gave for those initial tariffs, the blanket tariffs of 25%. So this is...
Yeah, so I have some questions about this guy. I don't know him personally, never met him when I was in the force. But one of the questions I have is, he was only in the force for 20 years and he made it all the way up to deputy commissioner. Well, here's the thing about that. There's an unwritten rule that is obviously violated quite often, that you don't get to superintendent, which is the second officer or white shirt level, until you've got at least 20 years of service. So how did he get to deputy commissioner if he only had 20 years of service? Now, it could be that he had been in a previous police force, that may be, and that he came over as an officer, that may be. That happens all the time, because when you come over they recognize your as an officer, anyways. They recognize your standing in that other outfit, but also he doesn't look old enough to have been the case. And I know he's a lawyer, Harvard trained, and all this other kind of stuff, which is a bit concerning since Harvard has gone so woke and so left wing. But if he made it to deputy commissioner after 20 years, less than 20 years of service, I'm just wondering if he's got some knee pads in his closet or something, because that is just unheard of. And I know that's a little bit, sorry, that's a little bit vulgar, but you know what I mean? Like, it just hardly ever happens that anybody gets past inspector if, under 20 years. Yes, it's possible. Yes, they make obviously, exceptions to that, and high flyers and all the rest of that. But I don't know. I just don't think that. I think something's up there, and I have my suspicions. Let's just keep it at that. I have my suspicions. So Brian said he was a longtime officer in the Canadian Army. But, and I heard that too, but the Army, the military experience doesn't do anything for you in the RCMP. So, I don't know. I just don't think that, I think that's a little bit, I just don't think that, I'm very suspicious. I'm just very suspicious. He's obviously a hand-picked guy, high up in the Liberal establishment, and that worries me. That worries me a lot, actually, because I don't trust white shirts that get that high up anyway. I know I shouldn't say that, because I do know some white shirts who are fairly high up who are actually good people. It's just that on the whole, I have my suspicions of white shirts, especially when they get that high up. So now this whole thing is problematic, because not only do we have this China attack here and all they're infiltrating us, but it goes beyond that. I mean, they're funding all of these cartels within North America. This fentanyl crisis, that is a direct attack on us. That is an attack on our nation. This is not just this is not just theoretical. I believe that this is part of a lead up to war, because how could it not be? They're funding the cartels to bring fentanyl into North America. That's to destabilize us. But the U.S., they don't trust a lot of their allies, because they know that they've been infiltrated. I'm going to play this one clip from Fox Business, and then we're going to go to a clip from Daniela Cambone, because it does show you that there's a parallel.
Along with the FBI. So yes, we're targeting those trafficking organizations, both with humans and drugs. You're going to see a huge decrease in the amount of that trafficking going on in the country. Look, the border numbers right now, Maria, we're down 90%, which means less women and children being sex trafficked in the United States, less fentanyl is getting in the United States to kill Americans, and less terrorists are crossing the border. President Trump, what he's done to this border already has significantly hurt the cartels. They're losing billions of dollars a month because of what President Trump has done. We're going to suffocate these people. We're going to shut them down, because if they don't have money, they can't bribe officials and they can't continue their business. So we're going to tackle, just not in the United States, not just in Mexico, but worldwide. The illegal cartels in 43 countries around the globe. We're attacking them since President Trump has called them a terrorist organization, that opens up a wide net of what we can do with these cartels. We're on it. We're not going to stop till we finish it.
I've heard in the past that the Mexican drug cartels, they run Mexico. So you can do a deal with, Claudia Sheinbaum and, the Mexican government, but are they also answering to the dangerous cartels?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I've done this for over 3 decades. Like, even our vetted units, the units that we personally vet in Mexico, the Mexican federal agents, we don't even tell them everything because we don't fully trust many people in Mexico. And look, the cartels have survived for decades in Mexico. I mean, I'm not saying every military officer, every law enforcement officer, every politician is corrupt, but many are. And many are forced into corruption because if they don't take the buy-off from the cartels, do what they want, they'll kill them and their families. We've seen thousands of journalists killed in Mexico. We've seen thousands of politicians and government officials who have been murdered by the cartels. President Trump's move to make them a terrorist organization and taking them on, I think it's going to make Mexico a much safer country, and it'll be a game changer. Can you imagine the country of Mexico with no criminal cartels running that country, running the operations and killing so many people down there? I think Mexico would be blessed to have President Trump take the cartels out of business once and for all.
Yeah, so they don't trust a lot of their allies within the Mexican government, their law enforcement, their military. They're not sharing all the information from them. But there's actually a parallel to Canada because really, they don't trust us either.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of proud Canadians that have had their pride debased because it's been revealed for the whole world to see that, as President Trump, in a very harsh way, has said, Canada doesn't have a functioning military. But the reason for the tariffs, I believe, and I'm told from within Canadian government sources, is unfortunately, President Trump is right. Canada cannot prosecute transnational organized crime. The U.S. government, for at least 10 years, has been bringing intelligence to the Canadian police and saying, we know that Chinese triads set up in Vancouver and Toronto are running Western Hemisphere money laundering. So the TD Bank case, the Mexican cartels are distributors, but the Chinese triads set up in Canada under weak laws are funding. They're funding those loads before they go out. They're funding the logistics. The American government does not trust Canada Border Services Agency. It now holds back critical intelligence from the RCMP due to corruption concerns and due to broader concerns with Canada's systemic loopholes around the laws. So it is a fact that that is intellectually honest Canadians, or ones that are able to take the loving barbs of people like Mark Gahotis saying, Canada's a great place, but don't be disillusioned. Its laws are simply non-functional, right? And this is not an exaggeration. This is what the American government is honestly pointing towards, that Canada, like Mexico, like Panama, has the same infiltration of crime issues. And I do believe there's a growing.
So we have a lot of problems. They don't trust us. The Americans don't trust us. They're not sharing with the CBSA. They're not sharing with the RCMP because they don't trust us. We don't have laws that can adequately, prosecute criminals. They go for years under investigation, and no charges are ever laid. This is a fact. I can attest to that. I've known some sections in the RCMP that they go to work day in and day out for years, like commercial crime, for example, which commercial crime does a lot of stuff that kind of flows over into the area of money laundering. They hardly ever charge anybody. They'll work for years on a single file and hardly ever charge anybody. And it's amazing. And it's a lot of that has to do with the laws that we have and the evidence required to get into court. We're very behind the curve here when it comes to fighting these things. And I don't know exactly what we can do, but I think that RICO laws absolutely should be put in place. And I think that, you know, I do believe that we need to really look at those RICO laws. So the government, the FBI actually, they're having some of their own problems. Let's take a look at this and then we'll talk about it.
Welcome back now to the border. A memo from ICE was leaked, and that memo revealed details of a planned crackdown on illegals in Los Angeles. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says she believes the FBI leaked it. Noem posted this on X. The FBI is so corrupt. We will work with any and every agency to stop leaks and prosecute these crooked deep state agents to the fullest extent of the law, writes the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. It comes days after a similar leak happened for a raid in Aurora, Colorado, where several Trinidad gang members were allegedly able to escape capture because of the leaked memo. Joining me now is U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan. Tom, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for all of your efforts. That's number one. You were at that Colorado raid. Tell me what happened. Do you believe the FBI is behind leaking your plans and allowing these maniacs, these Trinidad gangsters, to escape capture?
Well, yeah, the Aurora operation was leaked. We think we found the source of the leak. It's under investigation right now by DHS IG. Secretary Noem, I agree with her that there's some information that tends to show that the second leak and the California operation may have been someone in the FBI. I've talked to the Deputy Attorney General. We talk every day, but this weekend we talked about he has opened up a criminal investigation into that leak. So when we find these people and we have the evidence to support a prosecution, that's exactly what's going to happen. They don't understand. I don't care what their political beliefs are. This isn't about politics. This is about the safety of our officers. It's only a matter of time if these leaks continue that our officers are going to walk into a place and be ambushed by someone who just don't care about life and are going to take these ICE officers on. It's already a dangerous job. Giving the bad guys a head up, we're coming, is going to just make the job much more dangerous. We're taking it serious. It's under criminal investigation. Those who are responsible will be held criminally responsible, and we'll prosecute them.
Imagine that. You're living, we all know that there's been people within the FBI who have been kind of, they've been working against the Trump government. They've been working against just the federal government in so many ways, but this is scary. I mean, when you have somebody who's releasing that type of information, that is a danger to the members who are going there to enforce the law. When you give the bad guys a heads up, all sorts of bad things can happen. And, you know, not to mention the fact that they can just, they can leave and get away. But that's a sign of it's a sign of disrespect. It's a sign of disloyalty. It's treason as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, so they have their own problems. They don't trust, they have a problem with some people within their own agencies, plus they don't trust the Mexicans, plus they don't trust the CBSA and really the RCMP in a lot of situations. So I think that is, that's a real problem. And it's a problem for all of us in North America as a whole, because you know, you have to trust the guys you're working with. If you can't trust the guys you're working with, you know, the main goal of every police officer is to go home at night. That's their main goal. And you know, when you can't trust the people you're working with, that might not happen. You know, and so I fully understand where they're coming from there. Now that it doesn't stop there. They have cities. They're going after a lot of mayors, a lot of cities. They're going after states for being these sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, where they're not. Not only are they not cooperating, but they're actively working against the federal government. So, I mean, there is a lot of issues there. I think let's just see here. There's a couple more things I want to play here. You know what? I'm probably not going to get to those because I've been playing a lot of videos, and I might just in a couple of minutes. But I think we should really talk about where does this lead Canada if we're not trusted by the United States to help. Will we get those tariffs taken off? I don't think we will until they can trust us, until they can work with us and know that they can work with us. Now, Trump is saying all this stuff about being the 51st state. Again, I don't believe that that'll happen. I don't think it should happen. I think that we should each be individual states. I don't believe that Ontario will ever become a state. I think they'll want to be on their own. And I think that Quebec will want to be on its own. So, but I think that the East Coast, I'm not sure if they'd be accepted as 4 individual states, or whether it be one state. The West Coast, I think, or the Western Canada, maybe one state, but I would prefer if it was 5 states. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, interior BC, and then Vancouver and Vancouver Island. Just because I think politically BC is 2 different places. You go past the Lower Mainland, and it's a different. Politically, it's totally different. So that's kind of I think what we're really looking at here is a lead up to war. And I hate to say it, like, is it going to be a shooting war? Is it going to be, what kind of war is it going to be? And it is, and don't forget the Yukon, Mighty Mouse says. Well, the Yukon, I think that if the West goes, then I think all the territories will come along as territories or parts of other provinces or states, I guess. But, is this a lead up to war? I don't know, because this feels like it's the more you look into this, the more you hear about it, the more is revealed. That China is actively working against us. We still don't know if the pandemic was a plandemic. We suspect that, right? We suspect that it was intentionally released. We don't know that. The CIA has confirmed that they do believe that it was released from the Wuhan lab. So there's that. But, was it released on purpose is, I guess, the big question. But, we do know that they've been flooding our countries with fentanyl. We do know that they have been funding the cartels. And those 2 things alone should really have you worried, and really should get you thinking about, well, are they just an adversary, or are they an out and out enemy? I think that they are an out and out enemy. Now that we are listing the cartels as terrorist organizations, why don't we list China as a terrorist state? Because, I know that sounds pretty drastic, but look at what they're doing. Funding cartels. They're coming at us with money laundering. They're infiltrating our government. They're funding Trudeau and his liberals. They're funding. I would absolutely say that they're funding Mark Carney. He's I think worse than Trudeau. I think he's worse than Trudeau because he's smarter than Trudeau, and that's when you put evil in the hands of smart people, it's worse than evil in the hands of dumb people. and that's what I think is a problem with Mark Carney. Now, Mark Carney, there's all sorts of things with Mark Carney that I think we'll find out in the days to come. I mean, Trump has actually he's promised to release the J.E. Island list. I'm not going to say the actual name of that person, so that this video doesn't get suppressed. But he's going to release those island lists, and Mark Carney looks to have been fairly cozy with some of the people who've been who are associated to that island. What that means, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of names on there from Canada that we really have to look at, and connected names, WEF names. We heard about what Pierre Trudeau was like with a couple of, I did a video on that a while back. It was demonetized, so I can't talk too much about it. But yeah, there's all sorts of evil things with that man. I don't trust him. Don't trust him at all. I know that he'll ruin our country financially. He's touted as being this financial genius, and yet he almost bankrupted Great Britain. He has never done Canada any favors. He's been behind all of these really radical leftist things that Trudeau has been doing. So, why anybody would trust him and vote for him? And it's really scary, the fact that their numbers have been going up in the last few weeks, that to the point where some people are saying they're either equal with or even ahead of the conservatives. I don't think they are. I think that, and I do believe that conservatives don't poll as high as they end up being in the elections. I think that a lot of people, a lot of conservatives especially, don't answer the phone for pollsters, and when they do, they'll give their points of view. But I also think that a lot more conservatives actually are concerned and get out to vote. True conservatives, not the ones that are just jumping on the bandwagon when it suits them, which I think there's a lot of people doing that. But maybe I will actually run a couple of these last two videos here, because they are quite, they do have a lot to offer. I'm going to play this one here. This is really how bad it is at the ports in Canada.
Portion of Canadians that are taking it seriously, that facts like we don't have federal police in our ports in Vancouver, Halifax, Montreal. Organized crime has taken over and infiltrated those ports. Daniela, officials in Vancouver say 0.5% of all containers coming into the fourth busiest port in North America are searched. So it's open season for organized crime. And anyone that's doubting the intelligence of the Trump administration, that Canada, British Columbia specifically, is a major production and export node for fentanyl, all Canadians need to know this is true, right? So I do believe.
Yeah, so it is true that organized crime runs everything in Canada nowadays. 20 families control everything. And they're part of funding the Liberals. That is, that's insane that we're so corrupt in Canada, and that we can't get anywhere with any of these laws, that we can't prosecute people. There is, though, a bit of a silver lining, and that has to do with this next story. and that is that we're getting a little, we're making some headway, or at least the U.S. is making some headway on the border.
Well, you're absolutely right. So you say that the border crossings are down more than 90%. So then illegals, reportedly, they're turning around and heading back. The officials are saying it's a new trend in Trump's border crackdown. They're not coming. Canadian police also caught more than a dozen illegal migrants trying to cross the border there, the north border, in below freezing temperatures, including 5 children, reportedly wearing quote-unquote inadequate clothing. This happening as President Trump's tariff threats are pushing Mexico and Canada to ramp up border enforcement. How significant has that been, Tom? What do you want to tell us about the assistance that now you're getting from Mexico and Canada with regard to their troops, or however they're helping your efforts at the border?
Look, I think President Trump has proven with borders crossing down over 90%, Joe Biden could have done this. But, President Trump came in a matter of 2 weeks. 2 weeks have moved the border numbers down to numbers. The other day, Maria, less than 300. Less than 300. I've done this since 1984. I don't remember the numbers ever being less than 300.
No, I agree with you.
So already great process on the border. Canada, I met with the Canadian officials. They're doing more to secure the border up there. Look, I grew up on the Canadian border. I know that border very well. Canada's now stepping up. Of course, they're putting military in their border now. So President Trump has done great things from Mexico and Canada by the pure power of the presidential office. President Trump's a game changer, and he's proven it every day.
Now, I'm not sure he's correct there about Canada stepping up with putting all these military people on the border. I heard actually a week ago that the military were not going to the border. So where is he going to get these 10,000 people? I think what they may find is that Trudeau lets them down in the end. I hope not. It would be, it's in our best interest to follow through and to secure the border. But Trudeau doesn't really care. He's out, and I'm not sure that they truly believe that they can get elected. I think a lot of, there are rumors that Mark Carney will call an election on March the 10th. Well, that's yet to be seen. Will he not? I don't know. I think that we're gonna have to wait and see on that, because if he calls an election, he's got to have something up his sleeve if he really wants to be the prime minister, and that means that there could be some shenanigans coming, and I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past any of the Liberals. Matter of fact, considering that the Conservatives won the popular vote in the last 2 elections, but they still didn't have enough to make to form the government. I think that's really, really telling in a lot of ways. Why? Can we really trust that the elections are going to go off without a hitch, knowing everything that seeing everything that we've seen? And, when you consider that we in BC here, we had an election that a lot of people don't trust the outcome. It was so close, and some seats flipped in the last little little bit after they started doing some recounts. So I don't know. Will it be a real election? And when you look at if Carney does decide that he's going to call an election that soon, I really suspect that something's up. He's been talking about using emergency powers, and he's been talking about a lot of things that just don't make him sound very appealing. And then when we looked at, how he treats people at his rallies, there was one, I think it was in Edmonton, where he kicked 2 people out right away. And then there was another one just a couple of days ago when he kicked another person out who actually was or held a Liberal card and they kicked him out because he had posted on something on Facebook. So they did a deep dive on what his posts were. So, well, clearly I would never get into a rally, but, probably most people who watch my videos probably wouldn't. So that doesn't give me a good feeling with how he would treat people in Canada. It just says that we're in for more. We're in for more of the same old stuff that Trudeau was up to, censoring people and trying to keep people down. If he's only letting people in who are, pro-carny and pro-socialist, pro-communist, then, just think of what he's going to do if we elect him and during his time. So will he call an election? That's a whole big question, considering how all of these revelations about how China has infiltrated us, how they're repaying for everything, how they're money laundering, how they're funding the cartels, how they fund the Liberal Party of Canada, and really his and Carney's connections. It seems to me like either he's going to draw it out for a lengthy period of time, or there's something really, really sketchy going on. I don't know. I mean, let me know what you think. But if he calls an election right away, I think that something sketchy is going on. I think something sketchy is going on right now with the polls, but I could be wrong there because polls do get a little bit, is there something wrong with the volume? Angus, I don't know what that's all about, but let me know if there's a problem with the audio. Let me know. But I think that's about it. That's all my ramblings and rants for tonight. I've been kind of looking at the chat as it's been going on. I don't see too many things that I've missed. Although James did talk about the JFK and the files. That they are being released. James also mentioned the $3 billion fine for TD. Now TD, once a respected bank is money laundering, they're infiltrated by the Chinese as well. That's clear. Scotty, you say you're banned here. I don't know what that's all about. Yeah. So there's a lot of problems. No one's charged with TD. I think somebody did somebody get charged? I thought that one person was charged, but I'm not sure about that. I can't say. Let's see, going through some of this. Bonnie. Hello, Bonnie. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about the TD Bank, the CRA, or the IRA in the bank in the U.S. They're going to be putting them out on the front lines. That's, but only the gun-toting, badge-wearing ones. So they've got a lot of good ideas down there. At least they're doing something. They're doing a lot more than I think the Canadians are doing. But anyway, that's about all I had. Yeah, Yentels. I'm not sure how you pronounce your name, but yeah, RICO laws. We need RICO laws in Canada. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these things. some of these comments. There are so there was, yeah, Bonnie says that somebody in the CBSA is wanted by India. Yeah, or they had somebody. I think there's a lot of people that are in our government are actually wanted in India, including possibly somebody in the NDP, but I don't know that for sure. But anyways, thank you very much for tuning in. And, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm not going to be here next week. I'm going to be in the Lower Mainland with the family, celebrating the wife's 61st. So we'll be there. I think we're doing, I think my kids have some high tea or something set up for us, which, I guess I'm going off the diet again. But anyway, you guys take care. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for, all the chat and all the comments and stuff. And again, if anybody knows anything about Vox amps and whether they are prone to blowing vacuum tubes, because I'm on my third set of vacuum tubes. If anybody can tell me if there's something odd going on, if there's something I'm not doing right, or if maybe I just have a problem with my amp. If anybody knows anything about Vox amps, let me know. In the comments would be great. And thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
You've been watching the Northwest Cavalryman Show. Thank you for tuning in this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the content. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and share with your friends and on social media. May God bless you. And if you're a liberal crybaby, bless your heart. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Thursday.